After performing solidly this season, standing in first in the Leeds Championship, Daniel Farke will most likely use this 11 to finish out his campaign, employing two defensive midfielders with Tanaka and Amadou, alongside a back four, with pacey fullbacks in Bogle and Firpo on the sides. After simulating through to the end of the season, Oxford, Derby and Plymouth have seen the drop, and we found ourselves with a disappointing finish to the season, as we dropped down to second in the Championship. Automatic qualification was achieved, but we had missed out on silverware, unfortunately. Maresca surprisingly won the Prem, as, even more surprisingly, Brentford saw the drop to the Championship alongside Southampton and Ipswich. Looking at the stats, Daniel James and Joel Pirro featured in the highest scorers tally, alongside Borja Sainz. Manuel Solomon came in 10th in the assist tally as well. Also, Meslier redeemed himself when it came to the clean sheets tally, as he came third. In comparison to the rest of the squad, Joel Pirro and Daniel James looked outstanding and will hope to continue their form next season in the Prem. Over the summer, we decided to transfer and loan list many of the players in our squad to gain funds and also ensure that our players will develop. Alongside Nathan Harriel from Philadelphia Union, we brought in Callum Mason, a star English centre-back. We also looked to move impactfully in the market as we brought in Briel Mbolo and Haidara from Monaco and Leipzig to add some competitiveness to our team. We spent the rest of our budget on some top talents from Bundesliga who were undervalued, alongside Andre Santos, who has been amazing in the League One this season. By the end of the window, we brought in some solid funds by selling Christensen, Meslier, and loaning out some younger players. As we reach the first day of the season, this is what our squad looks like, with fast wingers and fullbacks. However, unfortunately it wasn't enough to get a win on the opening day, as Gordon scored a brace against us. In response, we decided to switch the formation slightly, meaning that Bernardo would come in as a third centre-back in possession, and Bogle would move higher up. We also decided to promote Tommy Parsons to the senior squad, who had some solid traits and looked quite skillful. Although it was clear it wasn't going to be an easy season this year, we definitely had some moments where we showed exactly what Red Bull are trying to achieve with Leeds in this career mode. Andre Santos made a good header, passing on to Tanaka, who played it nicely to Nonto. Nonto broke through the defence against West Ham, pacing past his fullback, who then played it to Joel Pirro, who watched the first attempt but then made up for it straight after. We also rounded out the game against West Ham with a solid assist from Tanaka, who orchestrated the play to Anderson, who also made an outstanding finish to win this game. As we landed in January, Man United were somehow in the relegation zone. However, we were impressively sat in 12th, which is pretty decent for a team that have just been promoted. In terms of the stats, Daniel James had carried through from his last season's form, and Mbolo had done impressive also, whereas Tanaka had surprisingly made a lot of assists. We also brought in William Jenkins as a prospect in the right-back position. By the end of the window, Ilya Gruev and Callum Mason had forced their way out of the club, replaced by Bustos. The outgoings didn't seem to affect us in the Prem though, as we continued to show our glaring and fast, rapid counter-attacks, as Ramazani ran up with the ball here, playing the ball along to Mbolo, who made a tidy finish, winning us the game. Our solid form continued as we played Chelsea at home. Bustos made a good pass to Mbolo, who took the ball in stride, played it back to Bustos, who ran through and showed us exactly why we bought him. These rapid counter-attacks are the kind of thing that we'll need to stay in the Prem. Looking back through the results at the end of the year, I describe our form as inconsistent. Although we picked up a few wins, with 3 and 6 in the starting games, we struggled to find another win until December, where we beat Everton and Brighton in that month. From there, our form improved massively, as in January we had a solid cup run, beating Portsmouth and then beating Arsenal alongside Chelsea at home in the Premier League. However, from there we continued to have drab form, struggling to only get one win in 2 months. In the end, this landed us in a pretty decent spot as we still beat Liverpool and Newcastle. Some of the more impressive results that we got there were probably the reason that we survived the drop, as we finished 12th with a healthy lead ahead of the relegation battle. However, we didn't push on for Europe this season, and it's something we're going to have to aim for next. Our highest goal scorer was Mbolo, although he didn't finish in the top 10. However, Tanaka somehow finished with the most assists, which is pretty impressive for a CDM. Artibolo also carried on his form in England quite well, as he finished 10th for clean sheets. Checking our squad stats, Mbolo and James looked like the main players this season, with Nonto and Perot following decently behind them. Tanaka and Haidara also looked quite solid, as even though they were playing defensively, they contributed up front. Outside of the Prem, we did decently, as we made a run in the FA Cup, but embarrassingly crashed out of the Carabao Cup by losing to Cheltenham Town. Some embarrassing performances like this were the reason that Farke left Leeds United in the summer, and following the World Cup, Nagelsmann decided to take over on a 3-year contract. Although I do think in a situation like this, Nagelsmann might be a hard manager to bring into the club. If Leeds could get him, using a budget that they do have, I think they could get some solid players, as I did in the career mode, bringing in Orban and Ndidi to strengthen our team and bring some experience alongside ourselves. We decided to go with a 3-4-3 with Nagelsmann, having Aronson come in as an attacking sort of left wing back that can also go up front. After buying a minority stake in 2024, it does look like the Rebel project has helped to bring in some quality youth players across the team, as we brought in Marcia and Villalba to help strengthen our youth side. This is what the starting 11 looked like for the first game of the season. As you can see, Orban had a stellar display, as he made a lot of tackles that really saved us in the game. Alongside that, Osobolu made some key saves that really saved us there, and somehow, by the end, even after a penalty save, we managed to hold on to a 1-0 lead. By the end of the summer transfer window, we'd offloaded a lot of talent, including Joel Pro and Geldhart, and we brought in a lot of key talents, like Lazcano and Odrago on loan. We also scouted Berglund from Sweden and promoted him from the youth team to the senior team. I'd say this highlight against Fulham really highlighted how our formation can really be successful, as Aronson took the ball from deep, ran all the way through, as the defenders were marking another forward, and just cleanly finished the chance. Looking at our form through September, we had some good results, as we beat Brentford and Sheffield and drew with Liverpool. We also pulled off draws against Chelsea, beat United, and almost beat Arsenal, as well as pulling similar results against City. Some of the good results in Christmas put us in a pretty decent position, as Bournemouth, Everton and Nottingham Forest were found in relegation spots, and we'd found ourselves all the way up in 7th in a European spot. To push on to Europe, I decided to make some key changes. I sent Udrago back to Leipzig after performing poorly, decided to recall Ramazani from Porto in his loan, especially after Mbolo suffered a 2-month injury with a broken toe, and also it was looking to replace Nonto, as he seemed very unhappy with his squad role. We also signed Awaniyi on a free for next season. Towards the end of the season, we had a key game against Aston Villa to decide where we would finish at the end of the campaign. There were some really big chances from both sides, as Blas played the ball in nicely and Tanaka missed a pretty decent chance. However, Osobolu made a key save here against Rodgers, saving us in the game, but it wasn't enough after they still beat us 1-0. By the end of the season, Everton, Sheffield and Wolves had seen the drop, and we finished in 9th, which was absolutely an improvement on last season, but we could have really pushed for Europe. Unfortunately, none of our strikers came in the top 10 for goals scored, but when it came to assists, we ended up having Haidara and Aronson coming in the top 10. Osobolu just about missed out on the top 10 as well with clean sheets, which shows that progress can be made. Looking back through our stats across the season, Joseph was a key player, as even though Mbolo was injured, he stepped up as a young player and really made his mark. Daniel James also made a good campaign as well again, alongside Blas, who had a great debut season. Looking back through our results in the second half of the season, it really looked like our form dropped off, as although we picked up some wins against Wolves, Nottingham Forest and Leicester, against the big teams like Liverpool, United, Villa and City, it really just looked like we couldn't pick up any points at all, which would really cost us in the end of the season. It looked like that was reflected in our transfer budget for next season, as we're only given 46 million, causing us to have to transfer list a lot of key players to fund our business next season. Although in previous seasons we'd looked to get foreign targets from Europe, we decided to get some Englishmen back in, as we got Tyler Dibbling from Spurs, who could play in a lot of different positions in our formation, alongside Julian Brandt, who had a year left on his contract, and Danilo from Nottingham Forest. We also brought in Traore, Harwood Bellis, and Jed Spence to offer some depth. Haidara, Mbolo, and Ramazani were sold for big figures to English competitors. Also, some unhappy players like Bogle and Bernardo forced their way out of the club, and we lost Berglund to Chelsea, who forced his way out as well. In our third season in the top flight, it really just looked like we were inconsistent, as we made silly mistakes that caused us to lose clean sheets and lose games as well, but we also made up for it with a lot of late goals from people like Awani and also Tanaka, who made a really good goal here. When it came to January, our form was decent, as we ended up in 9th, which was something to build off, but definitely something to improve, as we looked a long way off the top 4, or even Europe. Charo definitely offered some really good options when it came to the wings, as he could offer some pace and also some good balls into Mateo Joseph. Tyler Dibbling probably came through with the goal of the season so far, as he ran through about 3 or 4 players and made a really good finish to solidify our lead in the game. And it generally looked like we were having contributions from all over the pitch, as even Amtuk ran through the pitch against Wolves and scored. At the end of the season, we have Mateo Joseph and Blas in the top 10 scorers in the tally. However, Atabolu missed out on the top 10 for keepers by a fair amount. And that was reflected in the tables. We finished 12th, which is a step back from last season. To recap the stats, it looked like Blas was the main guy who was carrying us this season, as we came through with a lot of goals and assists, alongside Tanaka and James. There was no joy in the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup, as we got knocked out by Leyton Orient somehow, and in the Carabao Cup, we ended up making a decent run into the quarterfinals, but were knocked out, sadly, by Arsenal. So far in the career mode, there's definitely been a lot of highs and lows with Leeds. Although we've improved a lot and come a long way, even coming to a point that we can compete against the Big Six and actually get some good results, it seems like we've gone backwards this season, and with 1 year left in Nagelsmann's contract, there is some room left to say whether we should continue with this or just leave it here. Please do let me know in the comments what you think about what I should do next. I'll be happy to continue with this, but also start a new career mode with something else that's more exciting maybe. Also, do feel free to subscribe, as I'll be dropping more videos like this shortly. They'll be quite concise and quick, so if you're into that, then this is the place to be.